So thank you so much for coming to our June webinar. We are VERE360, which is a virtual reality education platform for K-12. So perhaps take the next 2 minutes to go and explore some of our social media sites today. And just keep it handy on your phone for the next time you want to reach out to us. We'll be getting started in a couple of minutes. Okay, so if you're done with that, let's move on to what we're going through, what we're going to go through today, and let's talk a little bit more about, today's topic. So today we're going to talk about a teacher's EdTech experience, building empathy and resilience in a digital world. We are very, very honored to have Ms. Anjuna Menon with us today, who is a teacher at Global India International School, and she's also a media specialist. Now, before we dive into her experiences and her knowledge, I would like to take a little bit of time to talk more about what we can do as VERE360, and tell you a little bit about of how you can use VR in your classroom in education. So for anyone who joined in right now, welcome to VERE360's June webinar, where we are very honored to have Ms. Anjuna Menon, who's a teacher at Global India International School. So I'll just get started with the agenda today and talk about how you're able to use VR in your classrooms. After that, we'll go to Ms. Anjuna, who will be talking about her experience as a teacher. And after that, you are able to ask questions, to both of us. So I'll give you a little bit of introduction about VERE360. And we are a company that, that is out there to give people more access to experiential learning. And as teachers, we all know what experiential learning is. It's about giving our students the hands-on experiences. And a lot of times in our lessons, these are science lab experiments. These are field trips. And VERE360 is out on a mission to make experiential learning accessible to every school and every student in this region. But we know that it's difficult. It's difficult to bring experiential learning into a classroom. And today, because of COVID, of course, a lot of students can't go to school, a lot of experiential learning is prohibited. But even prior to COVID, we have had difficulties with experiential learning in our classrooms. As teachers, we all know that it's very expensive. So to have science lab experiments, you need science lab infrastructure, which costs so much money to build in your schools. And some of our clients actually tell us that it takes up to $40,000 to set up one science lab in a school, and it just increases year after year for maintenance. After that, as a teacher, I know that it's really, really time intensive to put in experiential learning into our lesson plans. We are always rushing to finish our syllabus, making sure that our students are getting the most of their, getting the most out of the learning goals. And oftentimes we just don't have the time to plan for more experiential learning in the classrooms. Lastly, because of the infrastructural restrictions, the way schools today do experiential learning is just not scalable to accommodate all students or all teachers. So this is where VERE360 comes in. We take experiential learning online in a way that's affordable, scalable, and teacher-friendly. So I'll show you how our platform works and what students can do with our platform. But before that, let me tell you a little bit about how teacher-friendly we are. So when you go to our web-based platform, all you do is take 3 steps to build an immersive classroom. So the first step is you upload your lecture slides. These are slides that you have used for years in your classroom to deliver a lecture. Secondly, there are libraries of content on the platform. So you're able to add immersive content from these libraries in between the slides of your PowerPoint slide or the pages of your PDF file. And after that, you just share a simple class code and share the class with your students. They will be able to experience this class on their phones in a way that is hands-on. So let me just give you a look into how some of the schools are using our platform. So this is an example of how a school, that was teaching students about health and wellness, wanted to give them a look into what it looks like inside the heart. So they used our platform and our immersive content library to find such a model and put it in between their lessons. This is an example of how a school also utilized, our platform and our immersive content for younger students to, create this whole environment in the classroom that's immersive and that's, very, very experiential. The students on their personal devices were actually able to interact with these fishes that were floating around the classroom. Lastly, this is another example of how many teachers are using our platform for scientific, concept explanation, where they're able to give students a view into what it looks like inside an organ, how to interact with an organ, something that students will not be able to have, in any other environment. So before I continue on with this presentation, I do want to give you a look into how teachers are able to build classes like this on our platform. So I'll just stop sharing and then share again with example of a class that I'll show you right now. And I also promise you before we end the webinar, I'll be giving you a sample student account for yourself so that you can go and explore this class before you make a decision if you want to bring us into your school. So just give me a moment before I dive into an immersive classroom built by a teacher. Okay, so this is, Karina, just give me a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen. Okay, thank you. So this is our web-based platform, and it's very, very simple to use. So this is an example of a class that a teacher built about interaction with the environment. And this topic specifically dives into water. And this is not just relevant for MOE classes, but also international schools that talk about water in some of their units. So this first slide was, the first and the second slide was the teacher's regular slides that they had, that they built in the PowerPoint. What they did was they came into this platform, into their accounts, and went to this function of slides and just uploaded this file. And after that, they were able to get immersive content from this library, and this library, and they were able to add it onto their lecture. So let's look at the third slide here. You won't be able to listen to it, but what the teacher did was they went on 360 video library over here, and they found a content that's relevant to water. And this content specifically is a day in the life of a water droplet. So this droplet goes around your water cycle, and your students are able to have this immersive experience where they're not just listening to your lecture, but after you talk to them about water, they're able to experience it on a first person point of view. So this is just an example of one of the content you'll be able to find. We have libraries of content available for you to explore and just go crazy with it and create immersive classrooms. Next up, I'll just give you a little example. The teacher wanted to include, the water cycle in a more static form. So they included a 3D model of the water cycle that you're also able to find in our 3D model library. And I'll just show it to you in a bit here. So this model explains the water cycle to the students as well. And on their phones, when you share this class with their students or their personal devices, the students will be able to have hands-on experiences with this, and they'll be able to interact with it. Moving on, in the slide 6, what the teacher did was they utilized the add quiz functionality of the platform, and they just created a quiz for the students, and they'll be able to get the students' answers on their, as the students take these quizzes. Next up, we have a content from another library, which is called the Photosphere Room. These are 360 photographs that enables you to ask visually specific quizzes and put in notes around the environment. So if I want my students to answer answer a very visually specific quiz, I am able to place this quiz in a position, and I can ask them, what do they think this body of water is. I'm using Photosphere Rooms and the Photosphere Library that contains multiple of these photographs. I'm also able to put notes around and teach my student about different environments. So there's a lot of case study for geography and the sciences for the Photosphere Rooms. Moving on, I'll give you a little bit of more look into what it looks like in terms of what are the content that we have available in our libraries. So we have a bunch of 3D models that you're able to interact with. This is also very good for things like these are very good to grow vocabulary for younger students. We have a ton of organs that you have seen as well in the video that I showed you that are very good for secondary school sciences as well. So I'll just end off the class with this last model. So, our platform, we pride ourselves in giving experiential learning to students, but I think part of that is also visualizing difficult processes that, it's difficult for teachers to explain from the textbooks. So, the acid rain phenomenon that, MOE schools are teaching about, there are models on our platform that you're able to utilize, and you're able to show your students different processes of this, different processes, and actually visualize it for them. So I'll just stop sharing right now, and I'll just dive back into my presentation. So now I just wanted to give you a look into how simple and easy it is to build a class on our platform, and after that you're really able to give your students a very hands-on experiences on their phones. And just give me a second. Let me just dive back into my presentation. Okay, so just give me one sec. So, we would love for you to try this out, and we will be giving you a student account at the end of this webinar. And, we would love for you to try it out on your own. We are also available for you if you want to engage us. We would love to give you a personal demonstration and talk to you a little bit about how you're able to set this up in your classrooms. And, we will be happy to come down to your schools and talk to your colleagues as well. So today, why the reason you're here again, I just want to go back into to why the reason you're here. So today's webinar topic, as I mentioned earlier, is a teacher's EdTech experience, building empathy and resilience in the digital world. And we are very, very honored to have Ms. Anjuna Menon with us today, who is a current teacher at Global India International School and a media specialist. So many of you know, many of you have read about, her and her bio that we posted. But I also like to give you a little bit of more insight into her experiences. So Ms. Anjuna Menon is a trained educationist with 18 years of teaching experience in international schools and media colleges. She's also a certified international baccalaureate teacher. She has a postgraduate master's degree in mass communication, specializing in video production. She has a keen interest in women's studies and sociology, which led her to complete her second master's degree in sociology. She also holds a postgraduate diploma in child and adolescent psychology, and she's also pursuing her MPhil in media and communication studies. She's currently working as a PYP homeroom teacher at Global Indian International School at their Smart Campus in Singapore, and she's also an EPIC master teacher for Singapore. She's passionate about bringing social change and helping students understand themselves through self-expression. So I don't think I have to give any more description to you to tell you more about Ms. Anjuna Menon and how she is a lifelong learner. I think that's very clear, and I think that is one of the reasons that we also wanted to get her here because, a lot of teachers who come to our webinars, a lot of times, they're just figuring out how they can take the next step in their career, what they can do in terms of bringing more things into their classroom. So maybe Anjuna, I'll just get started by asking you a question. And I'll just stop sharing my screen here. So just generally, what are your thoughts on, how we can bring more resilience and empathy into the classroom, in this digital world today?
Thank you so much, Adila. It is an honor to be invited by you and your company here today morning. I started teaching in the year 2003, and I started teaching in a kindergarten. And that was the first time I came across this word empathy and resilience. And after so long, after 18 years now, wherever I read, whatever we do in our classrooms, I again and again come across this word empathy and resilience. So what is empathy and what is resilience, and what are my thoughts on it? Okay. So what is empathy? Empathy is not to be able to stand in somebody else's shoes and to able to see their point of view. Empathy is not that. Empathy is to connect to the other person, to the student emotionally, to support a student emotionally. So when you are working in a kindergarten classroom, that's the most important thing that you give your children is emotional support.
Mm.
And that is what is the world talking about right now in these times, that we have to support each other emotionally,
Mm.
whether in your workspaces, whether it is your uh, colleagues, whether it is the parents of the children, whether it is the children in your classroom. Everyone is going through things that mostly people don't talk about, but everyone is affected in some way or the other. And that is why this whole thing, when we talk about mental health, and we talk about positive mental health, and we talk about people being resilient through these times. But if we are able to connect to a child, whether we are teaching them in person or whether we are teaching them virtually, and give them that needed emotional support for them to go through these times, I think that is the most important thing as educators, as people working in schools, as people working in edtech,
Mm.
as people working in the field of education. All of us have to understand this and work towards it.
Right. Okay.
So that's my take on empathy. And it's a challenge. Not every child is so technologically savvy in today's world that you give them a Zoom link and say, now you're responsible for your learning,
Mm.
right? So every child makes meaning differently. Every child takes on to this material differently. It affects them in many different ways, right? So we need to understand that as educators, and be gentle and kind with our children,
Mm. Mm.
and take them through these times with a lot of love and care.
Mm.
And I think that's the most important part of being a virtual teacher or a teacher through a pandemic. It's been 2 years that I've been teaching through this pandemic, and I come across it's very important to check on your children. It's very important when they log into your classes online to see if they are okay today, if they are emotionally okay. There are children who are just like spending days without meeting their friends, and they're this it's kind of a lonely space for children, and you are the only person who reaches out to them through the day.
Mm.
So you are the only person whom they can confide. Also, it's about empathy is also about creating a safe classroom.
Okay.
Not only a real safe classroom, but even your virtual classroom has to be a safe space where a child can express himself without being feeling bullied, without being feeling, that the teacher thinks I don't know something. So it has to be a safe environment.
Mm.
The other thing is resilience. Now, what is resilience? We are talking about a sustainable world. We are talking about sustainable goals. We are talking about um, everything, a sustainable earth for that reason, right? What is this sustainability? Sustainability is coming from resilience. Resilience is something that's going to come into play once this pandemic is over.
Mm.
Resilience is your ability to get back to your life, pre-pandemic life, and to make up for all that you have lost. Everyone saw these 2 years, including probably me, you, or anyone who's on this call and listening to us today, saw these 2 years of their life would have shaped out much more differently, but it has not.
Mm.
So, what are the skills that we are going to be developing in this time, which will help us get back to where we were before all of this happened? To
Right.
cope up with the financial losses, to cope up with the health issues, or to, the sedentary life that we have got used to right now, to just all these things around us, to this. It's like always we are in a stressful situation. We all try to fight it out. We all try to um, keep ourselves as positive as possible. Every morning you wake up and you're like, you're going to take all that you have within you and give your best to your day. But for how long? You start burning out after a point.
Right.
How do you sustain that burnout? How do you help children understand that this is not the first time that the world is seeing something like this? So, personally, as a teacher, I use a lot of active listening in my classroom. How do I develop empathy and resilience? I give every student that time to reach out to me, to connect to me, to listen to what are they going through. That's active listening.
Mm.
Then I try to build a community of learners where children are helping each other, whether they are there for each other. If there's a child who's very good with technology, I always say, someone just step up and help that child. You can all help each other. Even in a Zoom class, everybody can pitch in, because everyone has different technological skills and everyone is learning so many new things. So let's have more of sharing.
Mm.
Building a collaborative classroom rather than a competitive classroom.
Right.
So I teach children that how important it is to collaborate. We are not here, no one is in a race here, we all have to be there for each other. And that's when your work or whatever you're learning is complete, if you're able to collaborate with each other. I use a lot of storytelling with my children because I am a believer of teaching through a lot of stories, positive stories. Probably a book like a Diary of Anne Frank is a book that all children should read right now, to understand that no, it's okay. What we are dealing with is not so bad also. We are okay, we can't go to school, so we are doing virtual learning. We are, a little hard pressed for many things, but it's okay. We will all come out of it, and everyone across the world, every student right now in any country of the world is going through something which you are going through. So it's okay. We are all like, that's what they say, we are all in it together. There's a lot of meaning in everybody's in it together. Their emotions, for them to do some self-reflections, to understand their emotions, if they're feeling low on certain days, if they're feeling sad. Sometimes children are not able to comprehend it. So you delve a little deeper and you understand, why do you think you're feeling a little low? So they say the best learning happens in a state of relaxed alertness. A student cannot learn under stress. A student cannot learn when he has too many other things on their mind. It's very important to have a peaceful class going on for you to deliver, for you to actually get them to learn a lot. And once they're supported in that way, you will see that the learning is much more than we really expected. You will expect them to do this much, but they will always go beyond what was expected of them, because of creating that environment of the good, conducive environment for learning for them. And I think I work with Epic. So Epic is a very good tool in the hand of educators right now. Again, I think it's a very good resource where we can do a lot of positive things, read to children, use this time for reading. Similarly, I think your app is also very, very good. It also comes in there so that the children are using the screen time for some positive learning. They use it to learn concepts in a way that it doesn't feel like that they are learning. So I think, and it's very student friendly, which is very important. I feel the apps, because parents are anyway so hard pressed themselves, we need to have more apps where the students can take, they understand whatever they have to themselves of that app. Yes, all of this certainly does lead to an increased screen time. That's another thing when everyone says that, the more apps that they use, the more technology integration that is there. Isn't there a lot of screen time that is added? Yes, but my take on this is that is something we can't take away from them as of now. The screen time is also something that, because of this technology integration and them having all of this, their the learning has not stopped.
Right.
The children are still learning. There is no gap in their studies. It might not be how we had aimed it to be, but yes, every child is learning, every child is studying however much they are able to give in their best. And I think that's because of technology. We can use the screen time in a positive way for sure. We can have some limits on screen time as parents, as educators. We can give them activity which is partially screen time, partially they do something which is hands-on. So you can have different combinations of things that you do as a teacher or as parents, whereas the screen time is concerned. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity, because once things get back to normal, the children would have actually learned so many new things and so much And technology is here to stay.
Mm.
The way the world is moving towards AI, technology is very well here to stay all over.
Mm.
And we cannot, if this has happened once, this situation, we might as humanity again face some kind of a different situation in the years to come. So this is something that we have, it's a very positive tool in our hands. And so it's just children are very, if you explain something to children from a point of view of logic, there is no reason why they won't understand
Mm.
that why excess screen time is not good and where is that they draw the line. So you have to always introduce technology with all its positives and negatives. It cannot be so when you say the dangers of all the things that are there, which is technology, and then these are all the positives, and move them towards the positive bit of technology. And so very soon they will themselves understand that this much is good, and then this is where we put a stop to our use of the screen.
Right.
I think that's what. So I think that's from my end. If there's any questions, I can take those questions.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Anjuna. We have a couple of questions coming in from the audience. So the first question is, um, you mentioned this previously, but do you have any more tips that we can use to hold on? We can use on how to build an emotionally safe space for students in the age of online classes. I think this is very important. Like, if I can share my personal experience as well, I can see that, in the online classes with my younger students, sometimes, they are they are not being very nice to each other sometimes. They at times you see they're just playing around, but at times you can see that they are not being respectful to their classmates, and they're not really listening in. Sometimes they are changing their background, sometimes they're just doing their own thing, and you can see it as well. So I think it's a very important question about how we can build an emotionally safe space for the students in our Zoom classes.
In a Zoom class, it's very important to set some ground rules, like we do it in a real classroom, that these are some rules, and we are all going to respect these rules. So respect is something which comes with time to children. It's a little, again, ambiguous concept to teach children unless there's a situation. So the moment you see someone is being disrespectful, you as a teacher intervene there and you say that I think that this is not in order, and why do you think is this not in order? I usually go back to stories and books. There's such wonderful resources which are books where there are stories of why you should respect, why you should listen to others, why you should not bully each other. Bullying is coming from a standpoint of not being heard, of not feeling safe themselves. It's a bullying is always a response to something that the child is undergoing himself in his surroundings. So you have to delve again a little deeper and say that I understand, but this is not the way we do things in the world.
Okay.
And also we have privacy settings. You should put those settings when you start your Zoom class, where probably don't allow anybody to scribble on your screens and things. It's okay. It's okay to not have all the features going in when you're using an app. So you can take your call and see how much of it is good and safe. And if the children are very small, they're going to have fun. You can't stop a 5-year-old if he has a right to scribble on a screen. You can't stop them there doing that in a classroom situation, because they're children, they will want to scribble, right? So you can just have your privacy settings according to your age appropriateness and then go forward from there, rather than give out all the permissions out there on of the device, and then create and just get into a little not very good situation in your Zoom class.
Okay.
So I think that's very important.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So I have a couple more questions, but before I dive into that, I think personally I'm also curious about something you mentioned in your talk, which is about screen time. So I think in general, teachers, I think, due to the pandemic and even prior to the pandemic, a lot of us have been converted to, using technology in the classroom. But what do you say to parents who are, who are very strict on screen time, who do not want their students to so who want their students to avoid the screen as much as possible?
Yes, I have parents having those kind of concerns, but at the end of it, the child loses out. At the end of it, the child certainly loses out, because when you're giving them work, when you're giving them assignments, and the child is at a loss. So you have to be mindful of how much screen time are you giving, or if you want to supervise the screen time, you should, as a parent, supervise your child's screen time. But whatever are the basic skills right now, how to handle assignments, how to do their assignments, how to use apps which are going to help them do their assignments, we cannot negotiate on that with a child or a parent, because that's the only way we have in our hands for them to learn. So there is no other way, honestly, and in this time. So the child will have to use that much minimum possible screen time. They can give them breaks in between, they can make a daily routine of them going to the garden or a park or something like that, and limit it to only studies if need be, and not games or whatever. But there are certain skills that children will have to learn to cope up with their studies,
Okay. Okay.
because it's we don't know for how long. So if we knew that there was a definite end to it, we could have said, okay, 3 months no screen time and we get back. But when you don't know the end to it, you will have to go with the way the children are going, otherwise the child will be at a loss.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think on that note, we do have a very good question, which is, digital and technological literacy among students is not equal, as you mentioned. So different students have different levels of capabilities when it comes to technology. How can we help students of all levels? Any tips? And I guess you answered one of them, which is encourage the parents. But do you have any other tips for teachers?
Yes, I think technology changes with the grade levels and the ages, and I think to a very large extent the children are the best judges. So your children, these children, because they were born with so much of technology and they have access to so much of technology, I've always had students who would tell me that probably this app is better, this is easier to use, this is our level. So your grade level, according to what you are, and your children, and what is that interests them the most, are the things you should choose for your classroom.
Okay.
Because we again have a zillion apps out here in the market right now, from where we can choose, right? We can choose some of what we want to do, but then you have to again give children the choice. You have to give the children the choice that whatever works best for you, or give them collaborative tasks where they can have things where they can collaborate with each other also on the virtual platform.
Okay.
So I think those are very important things as a teacher, for you um, to teach, but at the same time see that the children are not finding the level a little lower or higher. Because once, for children, once they have mastered a particular thing and they have really good with it, they will want to move to the next level. So they cannot be again, they cannot be like a fixed way to do this. But as a teacher, you trust your own judgment, and your, of course, your learners.
Okay.
I can't, a group of learners um, in any different kind of education systems, different kind of boards, every group is different.
Okay.
Their social context, their cultural context, and their understanding of technology. So we cannot give out. It's through what is available to you as a school or as a teacher. You could use that to the best according to your age appropriateness.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So shifting gears a little bit, someone wanted to ask about your experience in videography and digital media. And can you share some insights into how to use videography / digital storytelling in education to help build empathy and resilience among the students?
Oh, lovely. That is a very nice question. Yes, I have. I've taught for 7 years. I have taught video production to college students, and that those 7 years have been really a lot of learning for me as well. So, when to teach empathy and resilience using the medium of video production, I would say that get children or your students, if they're adults also for that matter, to pick out stories that bring out empathy, to to bring out stories that will bring out resilience. So you, if you're adapting a story that you already have into a movie, then you pick up a story where the characters are displaying a positive attitude, a positive story of empathy, of resilience, of them surviving through something. I think many a times taking somebody's biographies, autobiographies, life stories of people, children, those kinds, and that's why I think right now the lot of very good content is being generated all over, even through this pandemic, because people are taking in stories which are very um, different in nature. It has moved from that light entertainment to um, you know um, like that lovely documentary I was watching on that octopus has feelings. Seen
Yes,
that one? Yeah.
I've seen the trailer.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one. So we are talking a lot about things like nature, things, the good things of life. We have all taken a back seat and we're looking around things to be thankful for. And when you actually look, you'll find a lot of things around you which is so much positive in nature. So I would say, right now I do a lot of this healthcare workers. If you go around and you're looking for making a movie on someone who's been a healthcare worker through a pandemic, who's been doctored through the pandemic, and these people who are delivering food to us through the pandemic, these are the people who are going out there and doing things for others. So these are very good examples to teach children, because that's very observable for them, that somebody is going to deliver food to you through a pandemic, and it's such a good deed. And there's so much to learn from that kind of thing. So people cooking food for their neighbors, such wonderful stories of people. There's so many numbers people keep circulating where you call up if you are in need of home cooked meals, right? If you're in quarantine or you cannot come out. So those are the really, really good things around you that people are doing. So those are wonderful stories to pick out now and turn them into short movies, turn them into video production stories. I think a lot of very, very good content is coming out of video production lately, which is heartening to see all the positives that we can see around, the
Okay.
positive stories.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Anjuna. So I know we are almost finishing up on our at the time, but maybe I think I'll ask a question, that a lot of teachers are thinking about right now, which is the teachers are experiencing a lot of technological burnout now. A lot of responsibility to deal with the shift in education has been placed on teachers. How can you support the resilience of teachers as well?
Okay, that's another very good one. Like I was just sharing with you, I am off screen for this month. so so it's I think as teachers we need to practice self-care. And self-care is just giving yourself that, that at the end of the day, I've done my best, and be at peace with that. And probably have some kind of yoga or some kind of mindfulness, or just have a routine for just going for a walk. Pick up a small hobby which keeps you relaxed. So those are the things I think everyone needs to do to kind of handle the stress of the pandemic. Because when I say you support children emotionally, it's draining at the end of the day. Because yes, there is so much of emotion that you imbibe, that you carry with your children and their ups and downs. And again, last 2 years, it's been the most emotionally draining 2 years of my teaching career for sure. But then you find your own ways which bring you peace. Maybe listen to some music which you like, do something good for yourself, keep in touch with your friends. I do that a lot. Talk to your friends, people who are close to you. So it's very important to have those things going well for yourself as a teacher through a pandemic, because it's very important. You can only give to others if you have it within you, and once you don't have it in you, then it's like you coming out from a empty space of giving, which is not possible. So that's why it's important to to read some good books, to watch some good media, which is motivating of sorts, or just listening to other people's experiences, because I listen to a lot of TED talks where people talk of the different things they are dealing with, and you come to a point and you say, oh no, you're not alone. Like, there's so many people who are exactly going through what I'm going through. So that kind of connections which you need in your life are very important to keep yourself good, and to build your own resilience as a teacher. And like you said, like learning is I can never wake up and say I have learned enough. So every classroom, every new batch of children, every new parent community that I deal with, there's always something more for every one of us to learn. So it's very important to be very open-minded as a teacher for everything that you can learn. Wherever you have an opportunity to learn something new, always take it. I think it's important, very important.
That's awesome.
I
Learning.
met you and I thought there is so much for me to learn from you, Adila.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you are a very good example of how learning is a lifelong commitment.
Yes. So that's very important. Wherever your mindset has to be that of being a learner. It's not to do with your job, career designations, or where you're working. That's not it. It's your inner ability. I learned so much from my children, and I've said, the children will be like, yeah, and I share with them how our integration and our understanding of technology was so different from what is theirs. And they are wonderful in the sense that they actually see so much of how the future is going to be much more clearly than we can. So there's actually a lot to learn from your students, from your children, in the way they perceive everything and the way they will give you answers. Whenever you are stuck, I think they are your best people to go to get your answers for a lot of things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I know I'm mindful that we are out of time, but I think there's a very important question that has come in. And maybe if you could share your insights on this. It's what types of technology do you think are here to stay with the pandemic? And what types of technologies do you think should or should not be here to stay in the long run?
Okay. I would say that the most beautiful resource as an educator are the online books that are available to children, the digital libraries that have come across, and so many more are coming in. I think that's a wonderful resource to have in the hands of children. That kind of introduction to books, and the amount I can do with books with children is like, it's crossed. It's like I have been able to actually get my classes and children to read so much now post pandemic. That is one. I think for sure your kind of things where AR, VR, AI, all those coding. I think all these things are good. These are all very things which are here to stay. We cannot when the adult world is going to be moving into all of this so fast, we cannot keep the children from not moving in that direction. Right. So robotics, I think there's just so much new in the market, and there is so much people are still researching and finding and connecting to schools and teachers and educators to see what works best with children. So all of that is surely here to stay. For what will not stay, I think probably, I don't know how much more, probably, I think children are kind of done with video games, much more, that kind of thing that we don't have. Gaming is something I don't know, but I think children are not. I have a 10-year-old at home and he's not interested in playing games anymore. So because there is so much more creative things that they do, even in gaming. I think when it's in a way where they can build something or do something constructive, these children are very high with creativity. That kind of just mindless gaming is something I don't think it interests children anymore. They also think through their games. They are so so now, thinking through everything. So I think those kind of things where we thought children were wasting time, I think whatever is their screen time is always of some value and some use. Designing apps are very much here to stay.
Mm.
We would have such beautiful things that you find now online, online video production apps, online apps for making movies. All of this photography is here to stay for sure. All this is here to stay because people are getting that time. So many people are taking up so many new hobbies. So this technology is what makes us do all this stuff, and all these apps, this like apps for everything now. And partly because of, again, see, isn't it because of the home delivery apps that we are surviving without the grocery apps? So you cannot now say, I think technology is like in every aspect of our life, and it's here to stay. It's just very much here to stay.
Yeah.
There is this yeah there is nothing that is going to go backwards from here,
Right.
pandemic or no pandemic. I think the way we are, and the way we have kind of, everyone has redesigned their lives.
Mm.
I think people will stick on to these things, and everyone, because of being home and having that kind of time on hand, is actually learning so much. Adults are reading so much on Kindle. So you can't say that there is anything which is on the back. It's just going forward.
Okay.
So that's my take on it.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. I think this has been really, really insightful. Does anyone have any other questions they want to, get it out there before, we let Miss Anjuna go? Okay, I think it's all good. So thank you so much, Anjuna, for coming in and hosting this webinar with us